Welcome back to Star of Shovelware, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at Nirvana on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm going to apologise right away as the thumbnail and title of this video is most definitely clickbait, but for good reason, and I'm not actually going to be reviewing the game in this video. The reason for this is that I've already actually reviewed Nirvana in a previous video a couple of years back, where it went by the name Nirvana Pilot Yume, and I didn't want people to make the same mistake that I did in thinking that this was an entirely different game and possibly a sequel, hence having a separate video and publicising it as a review. Now, you can find my full review of Nirvana Pilot Yume linked down below in the description box, but in this video I'm going to just be discussing what differences, if any, there are between the two games. So, starting off first with the story, if you haven't watched my other review, Nirvana, or Nirvana Pilot Yume, is the story of an apprentice pilot called Yume, who is essentially the driver of a futuristic high-speed F1 car, and a relationship with Mita Aldane. Now, Aldane plays the role of an eye, and the eye essentially forms a psychic link with the driver, acting as a third-person camera for them. Having a bit of a painful past, Aldane is reluctant to become Yume's eye, but the two form a bond straight from the get-go, and as I said in my original review, the writing in the game is a little bit ridiculous at times, with Yume proposing a love to Aldane within about a day's worth of meeting him. Now, from what I could tell, nothing at all has been changed when it comes to the game's story. The writing and plotline remains exactly the same and the dialogue options are all identical, but what has changed are the erotic sex scenes featured in the original Nirvana Pilot Yume, and instead these have been replaced with these scenes which just contain love arts, as opposed to the more saucy scenes of the original. Now, I emailed Red Deer Games to inquire about the differences and have yet to receive a response, but I presume that Nirvana is essentially a clean version of Nirvana Pilot Yume, but nowhere in the game's description is this mentioned, which I felt was a little deceptive of the publisher. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, I've played about 6 of the tracks in this new version, and these were the most noticeable differences. Firstly, all of the tracks appear to remain the same, bar a couple of minor tweaks to them, like here in the first track you'll notice there's now a wall on the right hand side in the new game, but there still remains the same bullshit trial and error mechanics to the tracks, as you try and work your way through them, taking different paths through them until you eventually learn the pitfalls, and find a route which actually lets you get to the end point. You'll also notice that in the new version, the camera angle is set much lower down and closer to the race car, and the camera angle was something that I criticised in the original, as it was already hard enough to make out the track ahead of you, but now it's even more difficult, which makes shitty hidden pitfalls like this one near impossible to spot. As with the original, your race car still handles like shite too, with it having barely any sideways movement, meaning it's impossible to get round walls like this when going at full speed, and while you do have that brake button to reduce your speed, again it's just as shite as it was in the original, and unless you know these are coming you wouldn't know to brake anyway. As with the original, the new game also features the same arcade mode where you can freely play any of the game's tracks for a bit of practice, but going by the eShop description there haven't been any new additional tracks added. And the new game also has a few more language options available. So overall it seems like this re-release of Nirvana Pilot Yume was just an attempt to draw up a little more attention for the game and possibly have Nintendo push it more, due to it no longer having any of the naughty images in it. The game itself, however, still remains mediocre. Its story isn't particularly enthralling and it still contains the same suggestive dialogue, which just feels forced and awkward. Its racing is average at best, but is just more irritating than anything else, and its soundtrack remains its one redeeming feature, but only if, like me, you're a fan of retrowave or synthwave. So hopefully this video helped you out and you weren't too pissed off about my little bit of clickbait, if you want to call it that. If you want to see exactly what the game has to offer though, make sure to check out my full review of Nirvana Pilot Yume, linked down below in this video's description, which covers everything you need to know about Nirvana, minus the fact that it no longer has the nudie bits. As always though, make sure to hit that like button to show your appreciation, and consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy my content and want to see more. For now though, as always, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, And until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.